Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. It's good to be here again. Essentially what I'm going to talk about is more or less the strategy in terms of how some of these preliminary areas have been selected. And it's pretty much a two-phase approach. On the one hand, what you want to do is you want to have the long-term vision in terms of where you want to go, so you have a roadmap of how to get there. But then on the other hand, you want to try to select those projects which have those features which make them more likely to be successful early on, so that you can plant a flag, get the momentum going. Because as everyone has mentioned so far, this is just the beginning, and this is more of a long-term thing that needs to continue. So how do you select those projects which are going to kick things off and lead you potentially to where you need to be? And so what we've got so far, if you look at the map, what we have is the downtown area is surrounded by the east neighborhood, the north neighborhood, and the northwest neighborhood. And located around the room here, we've got these maps where you can look in greater detail at these project areas, and you can see where they're located. But essentially, in the east, we think that there's a lot of opportunity along Pine Street, and we'll talk about it in more detail. When you get to the north neighborhood, we think there's some opportunity going along Oakland and along Rough Fork, and also we think along Oakland, Rough Fork, and Vista, there's some opportunities in the north neighborhood. Then in the northwest neighborhood, when you look at Sumter and also Darlington and Alexander, there's some potentials there. But again, we'll get into detail. I can switch back here to tell you how those were selected.
There's a changer right there, Warren, on the table.
Yeah. Just a little bit easier.
Okay.
And so what we did is, for each one of the different areas, what we tried to do is break it down in terms of the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats that each of the neighborhoods has going forward. For example, this is the 3E area, which is at the eastern section of Pine Street, right where Palmetto comes into town. We felt that some of the strengths were obviously Levy Park. That's a community asset. We felt that the location of Pine and Palmetto as the entryway into the eastern gateway into the city is something that could be celebrated. For the weakness, we felt that some of the vacant properties were an issue, some of the drainage issues, and also some of the property condition were things that need to be considered. Some of the opportunities, again, the location, where located next to Levy was an opportunity to potentially leverage some new construction to help build things out. And the threats was, again, some of the vacant and abandoned properties. So each of the properties, we looked at these types of issues. We looked at projects that were upcoming. We looked at different funding sources that were available to try to move the area forward. Started off saying was, in order to be successful, you really need to have a long-term vision. And you also, on the one hand, and then on the other hand, you need to have those projects which can get started right away. They can help kick off additional development. But I guess the key here is to keep in mind that you have multiple things going on at the same time. So not only do you have this effort going on now, looking at these three specific neighborhoods, you also have in place now the penny sales tax money to try to fix some of your transportation improvements. And you also have some of the projects that are listed here are projects which have looked at drainage issues and other types of issues. So you've got multiple things happening at the same time. And so if you come up with a longer term vision, you're able to balance those out more effectively so that you can get a more leveraged result that helps the most people. I guess that's the point. You're just trying to approach it from a strategic point of view.
That's the stage for the ask. So when we ask, whether it's a conventional lender or what's now called an equity investor or the Federal Home Loan Bank or any of these potential funding sources for money for this project, a lot of the questions that they're going to be asking are the answers that we're providing right now. You know, you can't go into these institutions, as you know this, I'm sure, and make a request for funding, and they say, well, you know, show me some documentation. Well, I got it all up here right now. You know, that's not going to work. So I think a lot of the answer to your question is I don't know where the funding sources are going to come from, but I do know that the information that we're pulling together is the type of documentation that you're going to need in order to get funding. And here's the perfect example of that. We're doing a project, we got the same set of information together, and we finally got it started. We had a little more than $3 million to get it started, but we did get it started. And now we have an equity investor. We have a nonprofit developer who has an equity investor who has $4 million, and they want to invest it in a community that's up and running. I mean, not completed, but they've been able to demonstrate that they have the capacity to get started. Now, had we not had this information, and had we not been able to start with that seed money, that would have been a non-starter for that discussion about the $4 million. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. We don't necessarily know where the rest of the money is going to come from, but we know what's needed, what we need to put in place in order to attract investment to the neighborhood, and that's what we're working on now. Yes, sir.
Back to the $3 million. What's the scope? You're saying that you're going to do these projects. What is the scope of each project? What is it contained? What are you going to do on each project? You got to demolish it. You got to haul it away. You got to get developers. You got to get people to do the drafting, and you have to do the infrastructure. Right. And you can do all these projects in 3 different areas. You one project in each area. How far does $3 million go? And their point is, we always talk about the beginning of the project. This is at the beginning. So you don't start something until you find out how you're going to finish it. Right. Now, the beginning is $3 million. After the beginning is over, where is it? That doesn't come to you. That doesn't come to staff do whatever they can. It's city council. We have to find the funds. People, y'all need to be up at city council saying, look, hey, why are you shortchanging us? Take that Crest building down there. I mean, we are giving the city, these taxpayers here, are paying more than $300,000 just for a group of investors for that one building. But then they know how much it's going to cost, right, and how much it's going to be when they're finished. Right. And that's the point. You're starting something, but you're saying, I don't know how it's going to end. So when the $3 million is up, where is the rest of the money coming from? This is going to be an infinite project. It has to be continuous in order for it to be successful.
It does. But here's what I would say, Councilman. The 2 things. One is that you should be able to leverage $3 million at least 3 to 1. Okay? So I mean, if you're going to give money away for every single project out of $3 million, if you're going to fund every single project out of $3 million, you're not going to go very far. I can tell you that right now. And so it was just like the gentleman back here said. If we want to do housing development, we'll probably need to put together a program that says to a builder that we're going to put up some money and you're going to put up some money. We're not going to put up all the money. And so that's one of the ways you leverage, and they don't need that. You know, they don't need us to fund. They will say they need you to fund 100%, but they do not need you to fund 100% of residential real estate development. They can go to the bank, they can get some money, and then what they can get is the gap that we want to try to fill. And generally that's not going to be more than 20 or 25% of your development cost. So that gives you some leverage. The other element, and I don't want to come off like I'm not concerned about where the rest of the money is going to come from, but there is money out there to do the type of work that we're trying to do. The problems that most communities have is that they don't have their project packaged in such a way where they can attract the money. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who have money who want to get involved in this type of project, but we don't go to them in a way that makes them responsive. We go to them in a way that, quite frankly, a lot of times gives them a way to say no. You know, because, and so I'm just saying that, yeah, because I can't, but here's the other thing that's important also. Each one of the recommended projects that we recommend to the city is going to have a financial model associated with it. And that financial model is going to tell you how much it costs, and it's going to tell you that based on the information that we have, this is how much we call conventional financing you'll need. This is how much public financing you might need. This is how much federal home loan bank financing you might need. It's going to have a layered financing structure for each one of the catalytic or priority project areas that we reference to you. So it's not, we're not going to start not knowing how much it's going to cost. We're going to know how much it's going to cost, and then we will know how much of that public money needs to go into it in order to leverage the private money. That will be our start.
I would think Julie can address that question as well. Does he know where the continuing funds will come from after the $3 million is based on the fact that you're going to look for other projects to generate money? I understand that, but then the city is going to have to continue to invest in these projects, and all of that it can grow. And then again, it's not your fault, and I'm not putting it on you, and it's not your fault. It's city council's decision. And I'm saying we are being shortchanged. Ain't no question about it. There's so many hidden factors behind what's going on until it's ridiculous. And I don't have time to explain this to people. I see it. I see it every day. But I want you to know that there is a problem. That there is a problem. The $3 million is just not enough. We need to make sure that there's a continuing effort to keep the money flowing in so that our communities can grow.
So it's going to be 3 years for this to start.
I hope not. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. We should finish up our work, this phase of our work, at the end of September. And at the end of that period, we will have very specific recommendations to Drew and his staff about where to start, how much it might cost, and the strategy associated with that. Now, in any project like this, there is a period of what we would call pre-development. There's just no way around it. And that's one of the steps that I'm talking about. And Ed just mentioned some of the steps. You got to acquire property. Sometimes you may have to get it rezoned. You got to have architectural. You got to have drawings. I mean, you have to do pre-development work in order to get something started. There's no way that you're going to be able to move from September into construction in October. But there's no at the same time, there's no way it should take 3 years either. We should be able to get something started within 12 months after we finish our work.
What impact is the hotel development?
Significant.
It's going to maybe be the anchor.
It could be. I'm being a little quiet about my answer, but yes, something like Hope Health, where an area is going to be developed, that's going to create population, and having a lot of people come to an area of the community that hadn't been there before, and it's going to create need. So yes, in other words, the question was, what impact would Hope Health have on this project? And the answer was, should be significant.
Is this part of the $3 million, this whole process here?
What work are we doing right now? I don't know. You know, in other words, are we getting paid out of this $3 million?
Yeah.
All I know is that the check is good and it comes back. But no, I don't know whether we're getting paid out of this $3 million or not. I mean,
It's not. I want to say something. I hear, and I think you're doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
In your presentation and all this. I hear a lot of stuff. There are some issues in these communities that run deep, that run real deep. And there is a great distrust with the community and the city. To be honest with you, I'm talking openly. Sure. There is a great distrust. Will these African American people or black folk be displaced? That's the bottom line. Will they lose or continue to lose their properties? That's the bottom line. Cut to the chase. What I hear you saying is that once the $3 million is gone, private investors going to come in and take over. That's what I'm hearing. After all the pretty stuff has been said, when you get down to it, when you get down in the dirt and look and find out what you got, this is what I see as a lifelong resident of Florence, South Carolina. This is what I see. African or black folk being displaced once again. And if you look at history of City of Florence, And they don't like to deal with their history, but it's here. And they all pretty.
Right.
Because there is no way you can have children, and the city is being our parent to a certain degree to the communities, and you allow your children to go neglected. There's something seriously wrong, and it runs deeper than just revitalization of the community. I'm telling you that, and when Brother Waters said it best, it's just like growing a garden. If you cut the water source off the garden, it's going to dry it to death. So the funding got cut off, and it was a long-term plan. And that's what I'm saying. Ain't nobody else saying that.
Right.
You got to be real with this thing. Until we get some real issues resolved in these communities, it's going to be some situations that are going to separate this city worse than what it is now. We pretend, I'm being real with you. There are some situations that are dividing this city. And I see it, and there's no need for me sitting here pretending that these things don't exist. They do exist. The best way to bring a city together is take your poor people, those are disadvantaged, and put them in homes.
Right.
Home ownership. Let them feel worthy of something and not renting, because if you look at Chicago and Detroit, these places where people are renting and leasing property, there's chaos. But once you put in home ownership, then people have a sense of self-worth, of ownership. Until we understand the simple concept and quit shucking and jiving around the issue, and you have nothing to do with these issues were here before you guys, I won't say you were born, but some of these people were born. I just have to be real.
I know I had a hard childhood, man.
I'm not saying you, because your presentation, your presentation is awesome.
Right.
And I think you're doing an outstanding job, but these things run deep, and these issues have to be resolved for the city to move together.
Well, you know.
Let me say something before you.
Before you say that, let me answer this question, because I think it's a very good point, and we only have about 15 minutes left. I know what you're saying has merit. You know, I mean, I wasn't born yesterday, so I know what you're saying has merit, and it has merit in a number of communities throughout the country that we work in. Very similar characteristics. This stuff that doesn't happen overnight. Doesn't happen by chance in a lot of instances. But gentrification does not have to be a byproduct of redevelopment. It doesn't have to happen that way. It doesn't have to happen that way. A lot of the strategies that we are talking about tonight are designed to address that. And you notice I didn't say mitigate, but address it, to minimize it. And that's the reason why we like to talk about it's very important to work towards stabilizing the neighborhood before you revitalize the neighborhood. It's very important to do that. And that's been a conversation that we've had with Drew and his staff in terms of this is the way we recommend you start. There is more than enough vacant and abandoned buildings and land in these three neighborhoods to absorb a whole lot of people without displacing a whole lot of people. More than enough. But it's all about how you execute that strategy on the front end in order to do that. And so, is it a possibility? Absolutely it's a possibility. Does it have to happen? I don't think it has to happen. And so, that's why, with what this gentleman said, we hear it a lot. And I don't get upset with people who say that. There's no reason for me to be getting upset with the truth. We've seen neighborhoods turn completely around in a short period of time. And so, I know what he's saying could happen. And that's one of the reasons why you heard us say that one of the important strategies associated with what we're doing is building capacity. Because if you don't understand how things happen, like rezoning and things of that nature in your neighborhood, then you're very vulnerable to be, to be displaced. It's very, people don't like to talk about it. But, organizing your community, organizing block clubs, understand what's going on, understand when they say that there's a rezoning hearing, you need to go to that rezoning hearing. You need to know, you need to go and if you're opposed to it, you have to say something. One of the reasons why spot zoning occurs so much in African American neighborhoods is because we don't show up. And so there's nobody pushing back on the fact that nobody's pushing back on it. And so the folks say, well, I guess it's okay because nobody's complaining.
Let me say this before you leave.
We're going to take one last comment.
One last comment.
There are a number of people want to spend some time at the maps. And we also want you to take time to fill out your comment forms based on what you've heard tonight and what your feedback is. And so we want to allow time to do that. Warren and Linda will be at the maps, and any of us can answer any questions that you might have.
One last comment.
Yes, please.
Let me say this. Let me put certain things in perspective, if you don't mind. I know that we have $3 million to do whatever we need to do to start the process. I have issues with that. Number one, on the other side of town, $3 million is not the limitation. I have issues with us coming on our side of town saying, well, we are going to develop the land of your community based on grant money. But on the other side of town, tax dollars provide services. So I think we need to move away from this ideology of that the only time that we receive services, dollars and cents, based on grant money. Now, there is no issue. There is no grant money spent on the other side of town. Tax dollars. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't want us to say, well, once we run out of grant money, we run out of services. That's how it used to be. Now, and I want to challenge. I want to challenge my council member, Ed Robinson, Teresa Irvin, our city manager, to look at it from a holistic perspective. Don't say the only reason we can develop our community is based on grant money. Because when the grant money runs out, services run out. But on the other side of town, there is no grant money being implemented per se.
Okay, all right.
I just want to throw that out. I just want to throw that out.
Request for the perfect get in the way of the good.
I just want to throw that out. Grant money is, hold on, I'm not finished. I'm not finished.
But we do want to,
I'm not finished. Grant money is not the issue.
Okay.
Grant money is not the issue. My tax dollars are the issue. Not the grant. So once you run out of grant, you say, well, we don't have no more money, and I can't do nothing for you. But services are still being rendered on the other side of town.
We got that point.
Gotcha. All right, just want to throw that out.
We did.
Just want to throw that out, just for informational purposes.
You got it?
You got it? Got it. Okay.
We have it written down. Okay, for those of you who are...
When it comes to Florence, South Carolina.
Yes.
That's the truth.
Okay, all right. So for those of you, many of you expressed an interest in wanting to see the maps up a little closer to understand a little more about what Warren was explaining, where there are opportunities for development and redevelopment and revitalization, and Warren and Glenda are going to take those comments. If there are other individual comments and discussions that you'd like to have, Jesse and I are available to do that. Drew and his staff are available. But we also want you to take a few minutes to fill out your comment form based on anything that you'd like to provide to us, whatever that is, based on anything that you heard tonight, anything that you didn't hear tonight that you want us to know moving forward, and give those comment forms to me. So we'll be here for another few minutes to do all of those things, and as usual, we really appreciate your time, the time that you've taken to come out and give us your feedback, and thank